Well, when the brains, and I use that term lightly and in quotes, behind the Alligator Alcatraz or Alcatraz Alligator or whatever it's supposed to be, this inhumane spot in the middle of the Everglades in the summer that has only tents, no air conditioning, and no running water, that's going to be used to detain human beings in the Trump administration. When that happens, and we also find out that the architect of that, the Attorney General for Florida, has been found in contempt by a federal judge in Miami. That's a chef's kiss. I love those stories. And I cover it all on The Intersection, a new podcast on the Midas Touch Network, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. And here's a clip. And continuing, sort of judges, wrapping this whole thing together with that terrible, horrific imagery I left you with, which is babies being sent to Alligator Alcatraz. What the heck is Alligator Alcatraz, you might be asking? Well, Donald Trump figured out that for political gain and political theater, that he and Ron DeSantis, who I guess is a candidate for 2028, are going to open a federal detention center for migrants, not in Guantanamo Bay, but in a 3,000-bed, tent location in the Everglades, of all things, in middle of July, when it is 120 degrees in the shade and there is no shade there, without running water, without proper hygiene. They're going to put migrants there in mosquito infested, with Burmese pythons that exist in there, along with alligators. And the Attorney General for Florida, he takes to the airwaves and starts bragging about it. Oh, we're swamp people in Florida. We like our swamp. Oh, the alligators and the mosquitoes create a natural barrier to keep these people in, like Alcatraz. Ha, ha, ha. There's an 11,000-foot long airstrip. We're going to be bringing them in. I got a couple of words for you, besides the fact that you've been found in contempt on a related case by a Miami, Florida federal judge. We got a little thing in the Constitution called Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. And I think that putting other human beings, whose only crime apparently is that they're migrants or undocumented, putting them in tents in Florida, in South Florida, in July or any time, without running water, toilets, and no air conditioning, is cruel and unusual punishment. And as people die there, and they will, the blood is on the hands of this administration. Let me read to you from what Max Frost, our young and vibrant congressperson from Florida, here's what he had to say about it all today. Donald Trump, his administration, and his enablers have made one thing brutally clear. They intend to use the power of the government to kidnap, brutalize, starve, and harm every single immigrant they can. They target migrants, rip families apart, and subject people to conditions that amount to physical and psychological torture. Now they want to erect tents in the blazing Everglades sun and call it immigration enforcement. They don't care if people live or die. They only care about cruelty and spectacle. Max Frost. Invited him onto our show to have him on with me on Legal AF, but he's right about that. Now, what's the brains behind this operation is this Attorney General in Florida, and he has decided he's going to take a page out of Donald Trump's playbook and start attacking the federal judge, who I know well, Judge Williams, an Obama appointee. And he posted on his social media, Obama appointee finds me in contempt for failure to comply with a federal order. Yeah. She issued an order blocking a state new law as being unconstitutional that would criminalize being undocumented or being a migrant under Florida law. And Judge Williams blocked it and then ordered that the Attorney General for Florida issue an order to all law enforcement under him, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, to not arrest people under this law. And he did. He sent out one letter that said, I disagree with the judge and she's wrong, but I'm instructing you that there's an injunction in place and you are not to arrest pursuant to these statutes. And then 4 days later, he sent out another letter that said, I disagree, as if he has the right to disagree. I mean, in terms of not complying with a federal order, with this federal judge's order and then went on like podcast world and social media world and said, I'm not going to rubber stamp a federal judge. I feel like I'm back. I said earlier today that people are calling the Supreme Court the redemption court or the Reconstruction court because it's just like the court just after Reconstruction that was against black people and civil rights, right? I feel like we're there again. I feel like this is the 1960s in the South with all these attorney generals and governors who were against the civil rights movement and refused to comply with federal law, refused to comply with Brown versus the Board of Education to integrate schools. We're there again in this moment. This is the moment that you're living in. And the judge said in her order, you're in contempt. You're not allowed to tell the people that my court order is invalid. You're not allowed to tell the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and others that they should not and don't have to comply with my federal order. The words in my injunction mean what they say. And then she quoted Humpty Dumpty from Alice in Wonderland from Lewis Carroll. And, where Humpty Dumpty tells Alice, words mean exactly what I say and what I intend them to mean and no more or no less. And and Alice basically challenges him and says, but what if there's multiple meanings of that? What would we do there? And the judge said there aren't multiple meanings and there aren't multiple interpretations. And you are to comply and to tell me every 2 weeks who's been arrested under this order and how my order has been violated. But look what federal courts have to do. And now they have no backup and no support at all from the United States Supreme Court. As Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote, you've just crapped all over the federal judiciary below and told them that they have no backup. They have no support at the United States Supreme Court level. Welcome back. The Intersection, brand new podcast I just developed. I sit at the intersection, no holds barred, unfiltered, unhinged at times, no censorship. I don't blow smoke or sunshine. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. on Midas Touch. And if you like that kind of work, we need some help. It's a brand new podcast, needs to stand up. Right? We're in the diaper phase right now. We need some loving over on the audio podcast platforms. Leave us a 5-star review, download the audio, leave comments, all that good stuff. Over on the video, more video watches would help as well. We're already in the top 100, but collectively, we can do better. And I implore you to help us do better. So if you like what we're doing on Legal AF, you'll love what I'm doing on The Intersection. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.